executive producer Lilian Garcia. Every athlete is on this quest. Every performer dives in head first, battling real-life challenges and overcoming obstacles in an effort to make their dreams reality. Singer, speaker, and 15-year WWE host Lilian Garcia was the first woman to ever announce WrestleMania and is now the PFL MMA cage announcer. And now she's giving you an all-access pass to the human interest stories of elite athletes, extraordinary entertainers, and wellness experts. Now, let's embark on another fascinating journey of chasing glory with your host, Lilian Garcia.
Welcome everybody and Happy New Year. Oh my God, it is 2020 guys. We made it! So exciting, and so excited because I'm coming to you from Times Square. That's right, New York City, where the ball has dropped. It is so infamous for the ball dropping here. Millions of people come every single year. And so I just want to tell you, if you're listening to the podcast, that is awesome. Continue listening wherever you get all your podcasts. Remember that you can always go back and watch it and see it on video, youtube.com/Lilian Garcia. Make sure you follow the show at Chasing Glory on Instagram, at Lilian Garcia on Instagram and Twitter, and Lilian Garcia official fan page on Facebook. Okay, so let's talk about Times Square, the ball dropping, so much action that has happened since New Year's Eve. Speaking of New Year's Eve, if you joined me in the PFL, you saw lives changed. Millions of dollars were given away. In fact, $6 million were given away, 6 different categories. So the PFL has done some tremendous things in 2019. Thank you to the PFL for making me part of that, and I can't wait for more action in 2020. All right, but the ball dropping, that started in 1907 here in Times Square. Millions of people visit Times Square. It is the busiest tourist place of the entire world. All right, so why? It's because you got like 330,000 people that visit every single day. On the busiest days, you got 460,000 people, almost 500,000 people daily, 50 million people for the year. It is really full of action. That is what brings everybody here. It is the restaurants. It is the life. It is the energy, the mecca of the world. It is called the heart of the world. Well, you also got the Broadway plays. So much fun. You've got to take in a Broadway play because really, it is something spectacular to see with so much talent that is up there on stage. And of course, at night, this place lights up like a Christmas tree. So many advertisements, so many lights, so much happening, but it is something that is just in your blood. I lived here for 16 years of my life, so New York, I love ya. All right, so let's go back a little further. 1904. So interesting, I never even knew this. Times Square was not called Times Square at the time. It was called Long Acre Square. All right, but in 1904, the New York Times, that's right, the newspaper, they moved offices. They went to the new Times building, and voila, Times Square was renamed, all from paper. Who knew paper would have so much power? All right, so Times Square, you got to make that a list here when you come to New York City. All right, so it is the new year. Let's talk about New Year's resolutions because everyone starts making those New Year's resolutions and starts going for it. I hope that you are on track for your New Year's resolution, but if you're not, after the show, you probably will be. All right, I wanted to bring somebody on here that I really thought was going to inspire you to make some changes, and that is the number one New Year's resolution is to get healthy, to get fit, to feel better, to look better. All of that really does encompass what you can create and what you can move on to all your other areas of your life. It is incredible when you really do feel good, what you can accomplish. So this guy that I have on here, Drew Manning, well, he decided to take it to the nth degree, to another level, let's say, because he was fit all of his life. He didn't have any challenges. So he quite didn't understand when he was having such a hard time with his clients to tell him, hey, you gotta eat well and you gotta work out. And his clients were battling and not losing the weight. So he decided, I'm going to make a change and I'm going to be them so that I could really understand what it is to feel like them and then try to lose weight. Oh boy, he decided to gain 75 pounds. 75 pounds. So he went from fit to fat to then fit again. And what he learned on that journey is what's made him such a great advocate to really getting into the minds of people, because it is more than just saying, hey, eat well and go to the gym. It is so much more. It is mental. So that's why I went ahead and decided to get him on Chasing Glory so that he can share his story. He can share with you some of the things that he did to also lose the weight, to keep off the weight, and to just be overall healthy in his life, and now what he is transforming into his company and in the millions of lives that he is touching. All right, so you guys ready for this? Here we go. The very first episode of Chasing Glory for 2020. Thanks again for joining us. Here is Drew Manning's journey of Chasing Glory.
Already a fitness guru, Drew Manning had an obsession with health, as well as excelled in sports, so it was easy for him to stay in shape. As a personal trainer, he would continuously exercise to add to the presentation of being fit. When he saw some of his clients weren't achieving the desired results, he initially thought it was due to his clients blaming genetics or other excuses as a crutch. In order to understand them better, Drew decided to try something unconventional that experts thought was too dangerous. After weighing a lean 193 pounds with a 34.5-inch waist, Drew decided to voluntarily gain 75 pounds and would learn fitness is more about a lifestyle rather than just a diet. He would give up the gym and consume junk food, fast food, and soda. His weight would go up to 265 pounds with a 48-inch waist. Drew realized that his weight gain affected more than just his physical appearance, but his self-confidence would take a dive, as well as acknowledging the mental and emotional issues as well. Drew would hate taking trips outside of the house and would become lazy and stop helping around the house. He would tire easily and even avoided playing with his kids. The experience would humble Drew, and he realized that food addiction was very powerful and very real. He was able to go back to his original weight, but now he's able to provide relatable tips from his personal experience to help his clients. His journey gave him the opportunity to write his first book, Fit to Fat to Fit: The Unexpected Lessons from Gaining and Losing 75 Pounds on Purpose, which became a New York Times bestseller, and he would become one of the leading voices in the keto diet movement. He was also the creator of the A&E show Fit to Fat to Fit, and is the host of the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast, which has over 200 episodes. Drew has also shared his journey on Good Morning America, Jay Leno, Dr. Oz Show, ABC News, The Doctor Show, among others. Just last year, he released his second book, Complete Keto, a guide to transforming your body and your mind for life. And his keto program has helped over 100,000 people achieve their health and fitness goals. He would also release a second podcast called Single Daddy Daily, where he shares advice on balancing a life and career while being a present parent. To this day, Drew continues to find purpose by inspiring others to get fit, teaching them how to do it, and give them hope that it is possible to get fit and stay fit. Get fired up, as it's about to get real, raw, and inspiring with Drew Manning.
All right, here we are. I'm so excited.
Hey, Lilian.
Drew, welcome to Chasing Glory.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited
Yeah.
because you are kicking off 2020.
Yes,
Woohoo!
2020 is going to be a good year.
It's going to be a good year, right? It seems so future when you
know.
say 2020.
It does.
I remember back in the day going, 2020, I'm sure there's going to be cars flying
Yeah.
and right?
Back to the Future. It was like, it was around this time. Like,
Yeah.
flying cars everywhere. We're not there yet.
And what's crazy, you think about dieting, you think about New Year's resolutions, you think about, and it's always the same.
Yeah.
And getting fit is the number one thing that people want in their lives, and they go, okay, that's it. I will finally stick to my diet this year. I'm gonna finally make the changes that I need to make. And sure enough, January, everyone's at the gym, right? Gym memberships are like,
Yeah.
you can't get on an elliptical. You can't. You're like fighting for equipment. By February, it started March, April, you're back, at the gym, and the gym is back to normal with not so many people. Dude, what is the freaking secret? Because here we are, 2020. We talk about it every month, every day, every year. And it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. The industry's done a really good job of keeping people in this almost rat race of like the same thing every single year, and no progress is ever made. When you were mentioning that, it reminded me of a funny meme with actually wrestlers. It said the gym in March or April was empty, and then the gym in January was all these wrestlers in the ring, like. Is
it really?
Yeah. It was a really funny meme, but it reminded me of that. But that's the thing, is our perception of health and fitness is willpowering our way to a new way of life. And there's a really good book by this guy named Benjamin Hardy that I read that's really good. It's called Willpower Doesn't Work. And for 99% of people out there, it doesn't. There are some people, like the David Goggins of the world, that are just so disciplined, they can make themselves do whatever they want, right?
Okay.
Most people out there try and willpower their way, white knuckle their way to a new way of thinking or a new way of living. And it doesn't work because they'll do it for a month or two.
Yeah. And
their perception is based on, this is the issue that people have, is they think their success is based on whether or not they get results. So if they don't get results within that first month or two, then they feel like, well, this is a waste of time because I'm putting in so much effort and I'm losing 1 pound a week, maybe like 1 pound every other week. Like that's too slow of progress for the amount of sacrifice I'm putting into this. So their perception is based on their success is based on the results and not falling in love with the process. So I know it sounds super cheesy, but Miley Cyrus had it right when she said it's about the climb. It really is about the climb. It's not about getting to the top. And people think that they need to look a certain way in order to be accepted by society, in order to love themselves, and they think other people are going to love them and they're going to be happy and all their problems go away.
Yeah.
It's a myth. Just like, if I'm rich, all my problems will go away. Right. Rich people are some of the most miserable people in the world.
They're some of the most suicidal.
Yeah.
I think that they did statistics, and more people commit suicide that are millionaires and all that than anything else. And they were saying that it's because they're thinking, when I get $1 million, I will be happy. Everything will be great. And then they get there, and then they find out there's still problems, and they go, well, to hell with it. What is it all for? And I guess I'll never be happy. So the same thing, I wanted to give you a little backstory with me with my bulimia. Because I was bulimic. I never had a problem in my life with weight. Going to school, was very athletic, never had a problem. Went to college, my metabolism started slowing down, and now I'm starting to gain weight. And God bless my mom, I love her dearly, and she had her own, views on weight and people that are obese and all that kind of stuff. So I remember I would be in the bathroom and she would look at my body, and I always felt dissected. And she would be like, God, your body's so perfect, so beautiful, so this. So I felt like, oh, this is good. I'm getting good, right? So when I started becoming obese, to me, all right, the most I've ever weighed outside of what I wanted to weigh was about 13 pounds, which for everyone else, they're like 13 pounds,
they're rolling
really?
Their eyes like, come on.
For me, that was 100 pounds.
I know.
Okay?
I know that feeling.
So when I went ahead and I found my friends who were like, oh, you can eat anything you want and then just purge it. And, so I got into that game. And it was awful. And it was spiral. And my metabolism went out of control. My teeth started going gray. My hair started falling. I wasn't in a good place at all. But I always had this thing of, if I stay skinny, that's when I'll get accepted, right? So I want to ask you, because I know that you went on a journey as well, because you were working people out and telling them you got to lose weight. And before you tell us what you found out at the end, I need you to take us back to that, because you're, by the way, one of 10 kids? 11 kids?
Yeah.
3 sisters, 7 brothers?
Yeah,
whoa.
Crazy, huh?
No, that's insane. I have a sister. That's it. So I can't wrap my head around it. Competition or how was that growing up?
That's a good question. So we all play sports. Football and wrestling were my sports from a very young age. And, you know, my parents, like, I love them to death. Like, I don't know how, I have 2 kids and I'm struggling. And I'm like, how do you do it with 11 human beings? Like 11 human beings in one household. One's playing football, one's doing cheerleading, one's doing soccer, one's doing swim practice, one's doing piano lessons. Like, how do you have time to just even like get ready for the day as a mom? So, you know, for me growing up, it was, you know, I was the 7th, so I was kind of in the middle. So I saw my older siblings and I was like, well, I want to kind of be like them. They played sports, so I played sports too. And so for me, growing up in the household, there was always someone to play with, but you never got a lot of attention from your parents unless you did something wrong. And so for me, the mentality of that was, hey, just as long as I don't rock the boat, I'm good to go. Like if I don't do anything bad, then...
Oh, because you knew you didn't want that kind of attention? Because I would think that if somebody's not getting attention unless they're doing something wrong, they would purposely do something wrong in order to get attention.
Yeah, so some of my siblings did do that. I didn't like that because there was a punishment like a spanking or a yelling or a grounding if you did that. So for me, I just was like, well, I'm just going to pretend like I have no issues so that my parents don't have to focus on me and I don't have to get grounded or get punished. Or if I did do bad stuff, it was on the down low.
Okay.
It was secretive, you know, so I would try and hide things from my parents so that I wouldn't get punished. So I on the outside, I was like, oh, Drew's the good kid. But man, I had my own issues growing up.
What were they?
Yeah, for me, it was, so I grew up in a very religious atmosphere too. Strict religion. For me, it was strict. My perception was it was strict. It was Mormonism. And, you know, I still respect the religion because my family's still in it. And, you know, any kind of sin, you know, a traditional sin, like if I, you know, watched pornography or if I cussed or if I don't know, I'm trying to think of like doing something on Sunday. We weren't allowed to go outside on Sunday. These types of sins, no, you're not allowed to go out and play with friends on Sunday. At least our rules were that.
Yeah.
So anytime I sinned, I felt so guilty, so ashamed because I had to be perfect. I felt like I needed to be perfect. And when I wasn't, there was a punishment involved. So I tried to avoid the punishments, whether it's from the church or from my parents. So I just pretend like I didn't have any weaknesses. Like, so when pornography was, you know, became a thing, you know, in the early 90s, you know, and computers started coming out, I would hide that from my parents because I was taught that was a sin next to murder. So murder and then sexual sins.
But what lured you into wanting to even see it?
Oh, all my friends were doing it, you know, and of course, like as a teenage boy, your hormones are raging, and this was this new outlet to see these things. I mean, as a younger teenager, it was magazines, you know, and you had to have a friend that had magazines, and of course, the excitement of seeing a naked woman was like, you know, amazing. But I didn't have a healthy outlet to talk to my parents about it. It was just like, hey, don't do this, otherwise you're a sinner. So I was like, man, I'm a bad person. I'm an evil person for liking this. Well, I don't want anyone to know that, so I'm just gonna not talk about it and pretend like lie to my parents or say, no, that's not mine. I don't know whose that is, or I didn't do that. And so I would hide things that that showed I had a weakness, and I grew up with a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. And I just figured it was better to keep it inside. And I think a lot of men out there listening can relate to this because as men, we're told to man up and just suppress any kind of feelings or show any weakness. So I looked at vulnerability as a weakness growing up because I played football and wrestling. Hey, you don't cry, you don't show emotions, you know, you do, you know, you just do what the coach says and you get yelled at if you make a mistake.
Yeah. And examples out there as well on TV and all of that. Everyone is just strong men, the Marlboro man, you know, all of that, right?
Yeah.
So there's nobody sitting there talking about their emotions.
Yeah, exactly. So my programming was like, from a very young age, just hide these issues that you have, these weaknesses, and just deal with it. Just man up and don't feel them. Don't let them, you know, consume you. And unfortunately, what happens when you try and suppress things, they end up consuming you more. So Brene Brown talks about this in her books. Shame has so much more power over you when you don't talk about it. Once you, and it's scary as hell, once you talk about those things that bring you shame, that's where it has no power over you.
Wow.
But to get to that point is really hard, especially for men, to be able to talk about things that they're ashamed about. Yeah. Because we didn't grow up with a healthy outlet to talk to our mom or dad about that, you know? For most people, for most guys. I know a lot of guys, it's a very similar situation.
Yeah.
And so eventually what it led to later in life was lying, deceit, hiding things, betrayal. And I'm sure we'll get into this.
Yeah,
We'll talk about my divorce. But I think we were starting with health
Well,
and fitness, and then
Yeah, no,
we got
no,
to
it's
this a
fine. I'm
little
glad
bit.
you touched on that. So, but what I want to do is take you then, I can see the perfectionism, right? I can see that now being fit is important. It's still kind of part of sports,
Yeah.
right? And so you're like, I want my body to be amazing. And so have clients that you're just telling them, hey, lose weight. Hey, do this. Hey, whatever. So talk to me then why you decided in 2011, May 5th, your last healthy meal, and you decided, I'm going to go ahead and gain 75 pounds so I can really see what my clients are going through.
Well, my initial goal was to gain 50 or 60. I didn't know I was going to gain 75. But
Okay.
So up until this point, my mentality was, here I am, someone who had never been overweight a day in their life,
Okay.
trying to help people who had been overweight almost every single day of their life. And I thought I had all the knowledge in the world. Like, oh, I have my personal training certification. This is exactly how to work out. This is what you're supposed to eat. You just do this, boom, 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 and you get this body. And why is it so hard for people? Why are you struggling? I couldn't understand why it was so hard for my clients just to do what I told them to do. Here's your meal plans. Here's your workouts. You do it, and you'll see results. And they'd be like, oh, man, I just this weekend was really hard because I went out with some friends, and I didn't stick to the meal plans you gave me. Or I was really sore, and it was cold outside, so I didn't go to the gym. I'm like, you guys, what's wrong with you? Like, do you just do it? And they're like, Drew, you don't understand. You know, for you, it's easy. For you, it's always been easy. And for me and for us, it's really, really hard. And you don't understand that. And I kind of took that to heart. I was like, you're right. I don't understand. So I was thinking of ideas like, how can I gain a better understanding? And for whatever reason, this idea just popped up in my head. What if you got fat on purpose and documented it? So everyone could kind of see and watch, because no one had ever done that before. I mean, and some actors had been paid millions of dollars to gain weight, right?
Right.
But it's different. It's
But
totally
not
different.
for this purpose. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
not
doing
for
it for
this
a
purpose.
role in a movie. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're being followed by either other trainers that once they gain it, then how to lose it,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
So I decided to embark on this fit to fat to fit experiment. So for 6 months, I couldn't exercise. I ate an unrestricted diet, which was the standard American diet, highly processed food, for 6 months. Put on 75 pounds. It was the most humbling thing I've ever done. I was so wrong about the way I was trying to help people, and my eyes were finally opened. But it took me going through this experiment that really opened my eyes as to the mental and emotional side of transformation. So before, my methods were all physical. Okay, let's focus on this diet. Let's change your macros. Let's change your calories. Let's change up your workouts. Thinking these physical things are going to help you change your body, then you'll be happy.
Right.
Because that's all I could relate to at the time.
Right.
Until I went through this experience and realized that transformation is so much more mental and emotional than I ever imagined. And the emotional connection to food is way more powerful than I ever thought. And I think most people out there who have never had a food addiction or have never had any type of weight problem don't understand.
Yeah.
There's a powerful emotional connection to food, and that's what people struggle with.
Yeah. So I wanted to get this in, and I think this is the perfect place to do it. I hear you, because even just the other day, I was at an airport.
Yeah.
Do you know, in a big neon sign, what it said?
Yeah.
Food equals love.
Oh, yeah.
I looked at that and I said, that's a way to start an eating disorder.
Yeah.
Because food does not equal love.
Yeah.
You can love food.
Yeah.
That's okay. I love my meals.
Yeah.
But food does not equal love, and that's
Yeah.
what people are doing. They're feeding. Their insecurities, they're this. They don't feel love, so I'm going to get
Yeah.
that ice cream because this ice cream is going to make me feel better.
Yeah.
But then they don't feel better, because after they eat it, then there's the whole regret. There's
Yeah.
the whole, oh my God, I just blew it, and that kind of stuff. So
And so this kind of ties into what we started with. People
Yeah.
starting off in January trying to go on some diet where
Yeah.
they're like, all right, I'm never eating sugar again. I'm going to eat, raw vegan or go keto, and I'm never touching these foods ever again. And they try and willpower their way through it, and guess what happens? After 2, 3, 4 weeks, eventually those emotions that haven't been dealt with yet
Right.
come back up, and they start to go through these same neural pathways in their brain of these feedback loops that they're so familiar with, of justifying, no, you need this food, you had a hard day, you're stressed out about this, your husband or wife did this to you, and then boom, you go back to your old ways. And then you're like, well, I'm a failure because I can't stick to anything. Well, so I might as well not even try, right? And it's this reoccurring loop that happens every single year to so many people, because it's not about just not eating the food. It's about dealing with that trauma that hasn't been dealt with. You haven't released it yet, and it manifests itself in a physical form where for you it's food. For other people it might be alcohol or drugs or sex or shopping or whatever it is. There's all different types of addiction, but for a lot of people it's that emotional connection to food.
So when you started gaining the weight, I've heard you say before that you didn't realize what the emotional thing that it was going to do to you.
Yeah.
And then trying to lose it.
Yeah.
So take us through that journey of gaining the weight, and then how the heck you lost it.
Yeah. So gaining the weight, I ate a lot of foods like Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Mountain Dew and Hot Pockets and SpaghettiOs and Top Ramen and mac and cheese.
And there's people out there going,
all these processed foods. So here's the problem that we have with our society too, is this type of food it's very affordable, way cheaper than whole food.
Yeah.
It's very, very convenient.
Yeah.
Just boom, it lasts forever, right? And it tastes freaking good.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is one of the best tasting things in this world. This food that's hyper palatable. So not only emotionally are we attached to this food, but chemically, biologically, there's a connection there too, with how much money goes into research to design these foods to taste a certain way so that we keep going back to them, right? So that's an uphill battle for so many people. So gaining the weight, my identity was tied to my body. So I was the fit guy, but now being overweight, and even the first 10 pounds like you, I was like, I'm so obese. And I'm probably like, Drew, you look normal. I'm like, no. I'm like, how am I going to put on this weight for 6 months? Like, I can't do this. Like, going out in public, I wanted to go up to strangers and say, hey, this isn't really me. Here's my before picture. Go to this website. Like, I wanted to show people I'm not this overweight person. That's not me, because my identity was tied to my body for so long. Yeah. And so it was a really humbling experience to go out in public at that point. And these are the lessons that I learned, though, is that not at the time, but eventually I learned that I am more than my body, and you are more than your body, and everyone out there is more than their body. You have more to offer this world than just your body. But it took me going through this experiment.
But and I want to hear, obviously, with my other question, but you bring up a point that I really want to touch on, and that is there's also the other facet of accepting people at any shape, right? But I start going, is that healthy? Like, just to accept anyone at any shape. Okay, they're not their body, but are they going to live the life that they could have lived, the lifespan? Are they going to be there for their kids? I've heard one of my other friends ended up losing 40 pounds recently, and he said, I did it because I was rolling around with my kids, and I couldn't roll around with my kids. He was always exhausted. So he said, I just said, that's enough. So that's the thing. What's your view on that?
It's very controversial, and I come from a place of empathy where I try to understand people. So if someone's overweight, I feel like there's this positive body movement, right, that's happening, right, where accept people at any shape. I get that, and I think that if we could start from a place of loving other people and not being judgmental towards them, because you could look at someone that's obese and be like, oh, and you see them eating, cake or ice cream. You're like, you have so much weight to lose. Why are you eating that?
Right.
Maybe they already lost 100 pounds, and that's their first cheat meal in a year. Like, we don't know.
Or maybe they are so depressed that they are just feeding that.
So we don't know their story. So it's not so much accepting them at their weight, but it has to do with that person's individual journey. Being hurt manifests itself in different forms. Like I said, some people are addicted to drugs. Some people are secretly addicted to these other things. Someone that's addicted to food or covers up that pain with food, guess what? The whole world gets to see that, and that's hard for them, right? But unfortunately, that's their comfort zone of going back to that food, because food brings that comfort to them, and that's how they've dealt with it from a very young age. And so what I believe is, if you come from a place of self-love, you're going to want to be the best version of you possible. Now, that doesn't mean you need to have a six-pack or be skinny, but that means you're treating your body with love, meaning you're going to feed it good, healthy food. You're going to exercise it and move it because you're so grateful for this body that you've been given, versus come from a place of self-hate, right? Like, people try and hate themselves to skinny. That's the problem. It's like, I'm going to punish my body, I'm going to starve my body, I'm going to work it out for hours, and you're at war with your body, versus loving it and then treating it nicely. And then from there, that's where I feel like people can have a positive, healthy lifestyle that they can live over the long term, and that will look different on each person, but generally they'll be a lot skinnier, fitter,
Right.
healthier. But does that answer your question?
Yeah. So and I want to make sure that people don't look in the mirror and also trick themselves to go, no, this is absolutely fine. Like I'm in a generation where it's
Yeah.
all accepted, right? And go and not really take accountability, because I tell
Yeah.
people, you got to take care of your temple. Or your temple's not going to take care of you.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're tired and you're slouchy and you're not performing and whatever, you have to be accountable that the choices that you made to feed yourself, and I've done it. Like I
Yeah.
still sometimes will cheat, but I just don't throw up anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm not bulimic
Yeah.
like I was, right? But I give myself permission though at times to go, Lil, freaking go have some chips,
Yeah.
you know, just have chips. But I also go, all right, I had my chips. Now it's time to, eat
Yeah.
clean again and keep my body going, which is how I sustain it with the balance,
Yeah.
like you said. But now you've gained 75 pounds. How is that journey losing it? Because you're saying all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be good to my body. I'm going to, love
Yeah.
my body, all this.
Yeah.
But you still struggled.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay, so for the first thing that I learned, let me talk about this. When I was at my heaviest, and then I was like, all right, now people are watching me because I was on all these TV shows. Got a lot of attention in the media because of this. I realized how powerful that emotional connection to food really is, because I went 6 months eating this way, eating those foods that I mentioned, to all of a sudden eating, real whole foods like chicken and spinach and broccoli and all these vegetables, right? And it sucked really bad. The first 2 weeks were hell. Like my body fought back so bad. I had these withdrawal symptoms that were just so intense, where I'm like, I'm eating healthy food. I'm eating 2,000 calories, so I wasn't starving myself either. But I feel so miserable. I had headaches. I was grumpy. I was moody. I felt lethargic. I was starving all the time. The food didn't taste nearly as good as I remembered it.
Right.
And here I was, a proponent of health, struggling to eat this way, and it clicked for me. This is what my clients have been telling me. I would give them a meal plan and say, hey, here, eat this, and just do it, right? And here I was, only eating this way for 6 months and struggling. My body wanted the high from that food. So it was like getting off of a drug, going through withdrawal symptoms, where the first 2 weeks were literally hell. And this is why so many people, I think, struggle. They'll try and willpower their way through it, right? The first 2 to 4 weeks, and their body literally fights back because it wants that comfort food. It wants the high from this food that it had for so long. So
Right.
you wouldn't tell a drug addict, like, hey, what's wrong with you? Just stop eating drugs.
Right.
Or stop doing drugs. But, for a food addict, for them, that's their drug. And they get to watch every other person eat that food and maybe not even struggle with it, not even struggle with addiction. And they have to go to the grocery store, they have to watch TV commercials, they see other people eating. And can you imagine if a drug addict had to do the same thing? But we sweep it under the rug because we're like, oh, food is legal and it's part of our culture. So it really opened up my eyes to food addiction and how people struggle with that. So for me, what kept me going, what helped me push past that, was knowing that there were other people out there doing this with me. That's why I made it public. If I was by myself and I had Cinnamon Toast Crunch in my house, I'd be looking around like, no one's here. I'm just gonna eat this by myself and no one's gonna know. But there's people messaging me on Instagram and Facebook like, Drew, thanks so much for posting the meals today. Like, let's do this. We can do this. And so we're doing it as a community.
Yeah.
So it was really powerful for me to do it with other people, and that's what helped me lose the weight. But obviously I got back to fit. And what I want to say first is that my journey is not the same as someone who's 300 pounds. Like, I'm not trying to compare my losing 75 pounds to someone else that's been 300 pounds their whole life, that's been picked on as a kid,
Right.
Gone through some type of trauma. I had muscle memory. I had the discipline and knowledge as a personal trainer. So it's not the same, and I'm not trying to say that. But what I am saying is that I gained a better understanding, and I'm more empathetic towards those that struggle. I think that's why people can relate to me more versus just your typical trainer with six-pack abs that's like,
Right.
hey, just do my meal plan, my workout, and look like this.
Right.
People want to be understood. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care first.
Yeah.
And that's something I live by.
But how about somebody who doesn't have the media attention? They don't have people on Instagram encouraging them.
Yeah.
They don't have all these things. They are doing it by themselves. They are looking around going, no one's going to see that I'm going to eat this donut.
Yeah.
And literally at that point, that donut has eyes, it
Yeah.
has a mouth, and it's literally saying, eat me. This is not going to affect you.
It's so true.
Oh my God. And not only that, even with me, I will sometimes go to get depressed when I'm eating good.
Yeah.
And yet I want some chips, or
Yeah.
I want, but I had my chips yesterday, but I want them today, and I
Yeah.
want them tomorrow, and and I go, my God, this is tough too, staying disciplined,
Yeah.
because it's making me sad.
Yeah.
It's making me like the fun is gone
Yeah.
out of life, right?
So this is where I feel like everyone has their own happy balance. Like some people, yeah, they can get to 5% body fat if they sacrifice all these things out of their life to look a certain way. That's cool, but are you going to be happier? Probably not. Maybe like if you're at like 12% body fat or 15% body fat, where you can go have some drinks with some friends. You're not bringing Tupperware containers at the restaurant while your friends are eating out and you're eating chicken and broccoli.
Right.
Your quality of life at some point is going to go down the more extreme you become. And this goes for anything, not just health and fitness, but anytime you become extreme about something, you just got to find what your happy balance is. And it's going to go through phases in life. There might be some times where you're like, in your 30s, you're like, man, I just want to be ripped and shredded, and cool, if that makes you happier and you're okay with that quality of life. But maybe as you get older, you have kids, you have other relationships that you want to focus on, and that's the thing, is our culture is based around food. Food can be, people can show their love through food sometimes, like your grandma or your mom, or I
Yeah.
come from a Polynesian culture, so there's anytime there's a celebration, there's a big luau or something like that,
It's all about
and I
food.
get that. But what you need to do is find what your happy balance is. What's your happy balance? With the way your body is, right? But still being able to enjoy life. I think everyone has a different happy balance. But I think for the most part, the general population needs to obviously be at a certain body fat percentage. They have to be at a certain level of their lipid profile to be healthy, for sure. But some people might be happier at 10%. Some people might be happier at 20%.
But you mentioned something about when people get married, because a lot of people get married, they have kids, and then they just let their bodies go.
It's so interesting, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they do.
And they get tired, whatever. They're like, well, we just don't have time. We've got
Yeah.
kids and everything like that. And I don't have kids, so I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it. I don't know what that schedule's like, so I
Yeah.
can't even identify with that. And who knows? Maybe my husband and I would be overweight
Yeah.
if we did. I don't know. But I look at that, and I guess the question is to you. Is it okay to let yourself go, like just because you have kids? Or because I feel, for example, my workout plans now are like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And if I keep that up 6 days a week,
Yeah.
30 minutes, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I think that people can find 30 minutes in their life. I think it's one of those things, sometimes people make excuses.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm married. Well, now I've got kids, so I don't have time.
Yeah. So what happens? We chase health, we chase wealth, and we sacrifice our health.
There you
And then once
go.
we lose our health, we use that wealth to try and get our health back.
Yes.
So we have it backwards. So at the end of the day, here's what needs to happen: our perception of health and fitness needs to change, where we learn how to fall in love with the process. Whether the process is lifting weights, running, biking, swimming, doing yoga, doing CrossFit, whatever it is to move your body. And then finding a healthy lifestyle of food, like whole food. I don't care if you do keto or vegan, eat real food,
Yes.
right? For the most part. And it's okay to have treats every now and then, for sure. But learn how to fall in love with the process instead of basing your success on, well, if I get these results, then I'm a success, or if I don't, then I'm a failure.
Okay, because
the
that's
problem.
what happens, right?
That's
they
what
lose all
happens.
the weight, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's why they gain all the weight back, because they get there,
Yeah.
and now their life is not happy and blissful,
Yeah,
and
like they thought it
all
was.
their results are, the problems are gone and whatever, and they can't even identify with themselves at that
Yeah.
weight as well, and
Yeah.
so they get so depressed that, holy cow, I did all of this, and I look great, but I don't feel great, so
Yeah.
therefore, I'm gonna go eat.
Yeah. I used to be so obsessed with, my body and how it looked before I did Fit to Fit. And now that I've done Fit to Fit, yeah, I still like to look good. It doesn't mean like I let myself go.
Right.
But I'm not as obsessed about the doing it for the wrong reasons, like doing it so I'm accepted by society or doing it so I'm accepted by other people. I do it out of a place of self-love now. So I know that, okay, if I love myself, I want to treat my body good. And you're a happier you when you're a healthier you.
Right.
For sure. Take care of your health, play with your kids, play with your grandkids. That's what it's about. If you want to be that person that lifts 500 pounds, benches 500 pounds, squats 500 pounds, like that's cool. But I promise you, for most people out there, they're not trying to be that person.
Yeah.
Right? It's, hey, I want to live a long time. I don't want to have to be on any medications. I don't want to have to feel any
Diabetes,
pain.
yep.
in my joints. I want to be able to play with my kids, my grandkids. I think most people want to fall into that category. And at the end of the day, yes, it is about exercise and eating healthy, but there's so much more on the mental and emotional side that people are missing. Things like meditation, gratitude, being mindful, like being present in the moment with your food. So that's the thing that we do is we're not mindful when we're eating our food. We are eating our food, but we're thinking about bills or relationships or watching TV, and we're just mindlessly eating, right? And we're reacting to emotions. So like if we're stressed, we're mad, we're angry, oh, there's the alcohol, there's the chocolate, there's the wine, there's the food. We react instead of thoughtfully respond. When you're mindful, when you mindfully eat, what that means is you are aware of your emotions in the moment, and you recognize where those emotions are coming from. Like, I'm stressed out. This is causing me to want this cake right here in front of my face. Yeah. And now I have the option to thoughtfully respond, or I could just react and be like, normally I would just eat that cake and be like, F it, and oh, why did I do that? Like so many people do. Versus when you're in the moment, you're present, you learn how to do that, you can more mindfully eat and be like, okay, these emotions are coming up, I feel them, I'm recognizing them, I'm aware of them, but I get to choose. I get to choose whether or not I react to that. I can push the cake away and thoughtfully respond instead of just reacting. And that's the problem with our society is we're go, and we're just reacting all day long, and we're like in autopilot. We're like, man, what did I even do today? What did I even eat? Or what did I even think today? Like, it's gone.
And everyone's in a rush. And so all there is fast foods.
Yeah.
Right? And there's not a healthy, they try to put healthy, salads or whatever in the fast foods. But, dude, I mean, that's also, you're going into McDonald's. Yeah. You've got a salad staring at you, and then you've got the Whopper's Burger King. Do you know what I mean? You got the Big Mac staring at you. Then you're at a point where you have put yourself in a situation to be in the environment of a shake, of a Big Mac, and then there's a salad staring at you. And I think that's another big thing is that we need to have some fast foods that come around that are 100% healthy. Yeah. And I hope that's what happens in our society.
Hopefully.
But I want to ask you, because you lose the weight, and you were married, then your marriage falls apart.
Yes.
So, and we talked about the addiction first. I want you to tie
all that in. Yeah, it's very interesting. So first of all, my divorce has nothing to do with me gaining the weight. Because a lot of people listening or kind of like didn't follow the story are like, oh, so she left you when you got fat. It's like, no. So this all stems from what I talked about my childhood, hiding, my weaknesses, the guilt, the shame of the religion I grew up in, and looking at pornography. Where there was a time that I remember my wife, when we were dating, asked me, "Do you look at it?" And I told her, and she like freaked out. She was so mad and like hurt, and I told her all the right things. I'm like, I promise I'll change. Like, this is just a phase. Like, I can stop it for sure. I made it like it wasn't a big deal. And so guess what happened? The next time I looked at it, I was like, well, damn, I can't tell her, because what happened last time, like, she'll divorce me or she won't marry me. So I just got to stop doing it. And trust me, anyone that's out there that's tried to like stop looking at pornography, usually, obviously you come from like a religious background where you're taught it's bad, it's evil, and it's unhealthy, and you try and stop it, it's almost impossible, because it becomes this, what I call the forbidden fruit. So in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve are there, and there's this tree, and they like don't partake of the fruit, and guess what happens? Eve eventually does. It's like this thing where you want it, but it's bad. Like you can't have it. That makes me want it more. like a child, right? Right. Makes them want it more. So what I would do is just hide it from her, and I developed this cycle from a very young age, and unfortunately for my ex-wife, I would hide it from her whole marriage, and she didn't know, and I didn't talk about it. So I just suppress as a man, thinking that's the best thing to do. It's for the greater good. I don't want to hurt her, so I'll just keep it inside. And eventually it manifests itself in different forms. And in 2009, I went on a business trip. I got a new job, was in the medical field now at this point. This is before Fit to Fit, and ended up having an affair. And I remember the night before I left on this business trip, and I've talked about this so like I can get through it without crying, hopefully. She had a dream, she had a nightmare that I had cheated on her.
Oh, wow.
And so she woke up just like bawling. I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, I had a dream you cheated on me. It felt so real. And I was like, I would never do that. I was like, never. I told her to her face, I was like, I would never do that. you know, because I loved her, and I did love her. It wasn't that I didn't love her. I think a lot of people confuse that when someone cheats on someone, it means that they didn't love that person.
And that has nothing to do with them.
I know. But so what happens? I go on this business trip. I'm gone for 6 weeks, and I have an affair. It's the craziest thing. I never would have guessed I would do something like that, especially to her. And so what did I do? I hid it. Obviously, I mean, that's what I'd been doing my whole life. I was like, well, just pretend like that didn't happen. And so I just went on with life as if things were normal. But she knew something was off. We've talked.
Were you still continuing the affair? Was it one-off, or did you continue it?
No, it was only while we were there during the business trip.
Okay.
So the 6 weeks we were there, it happened like the last 3 weeks or so, where we kind of like we spent every day together because we were studying for something. And so we were there for the whole 6 weeks. But then after we left, we still talked, but there was no like, oh, I'm going to get with you or anything like that, because she had a boyfriend, and I was like, well, I'm not leaving my wife. I can't do that. Like,
Did you have kids yet?
Yeah, we had our first daughter. She had just been born like a couple months before. Mm-hmm. And so we had a newborn baby at home. So
do you know why you did it?
I do now. Back then, I couldn't figure it out. We were, I mean, for the most part, we were pretty happy in our marriage. We had a good sex life. There was, I mean, not that there was ever a reason. There's never a reason to cheat. I'll be totally honest. There's never a reason. But it wasn't like...
But there is a reason.
There is a reason.
There is a reason.
Yeah, there is a reason for me.
There's never an excuse in a way.
Sorry,
right?
There's never an excuse to do something like that.
But there's a reason, yes.
The reason for me was I grew up my whole life thinking of myself as a failure. Ever since I was a young age, I was like, I can't be perfect at this. And if I can't be perfect at it, therefore I'm a failure. And I believed that from a very young age. And so when you believe you're a failure, you do failure-like things.
But you were perfect at your fitness. And you even lost, I mean, this is even before you did Fat to Fit. So, so if you were perfect at your physique in working out, how could you feel like a failure?
That was the only thing I could be successful at, that I felt like I could, but it didn't mean anything. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't, because I was hiding pornography from a very young age. I had lied to my church leaders about that, because if I didn't, there was a punishment involved and people would find out. So I would lie about that. The fitness thing was the one thing in life that I could control, that I felt like I could, be good at, right? Okay. But that still wasn't good enough, right?
So what did it do? Like, just you're feeding your emptiness?
Like it made you feel self-sabotage. Alive? You know how some people self-sabotage? Yeah. And that's like that becomes their comfort zone. That becomes their eating disorder, because they're like, nope, you're going to fail this. This isn't going to work out. This isn't going to be good. And they go back to this old feedback loop of, what's going to happen. This is going to happen. You're going to fail. You're going to fail. You're going to fail. And you believe that story. And that's why people don't get ahead in life, is because they keep going back to that. And they will self-sabotage, because that becomes their comfort, right? And that's why people will go to the gym for 2 or 3 months. But then guess what happens? They go right back to that self-sabotage mode. And for me, my self-sabotage mode was in this moment where never before, I never went out of my way to have an affair. Like, okay, man, meet up with someone. This is where it just presented itself in front of me. It was like right in front of me. I'm like, what do I do? And I wasn't strong enough. And I was like, well, you're already a failure. You've already done this. Might as well do this, because it's so exciting, right? And
you're away from your wife for so long, because you were already away 3 weeks before this happened. Yeah. And that distance does matter, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I was like, no one's watching.
Right.
And I think in those moments, and this is what I've learned, I didn't realize why I cheated for years until years later. I'm like, I'm so stupid. Why did I do why I beat myself up for so long? Like, why would I have done why? Like when someone is trying to be perfect on a eating plan and they eat that meal, they beat themselves up. Like, why did I do that? Like, I shouldn't have done that. This is obviously something more serious, but it's still like it ate at me for so long until I met a life coach, and she totally changed my life. She helped me learn how to love myself for the first time. No other church leader or religious book or anyone else in this world really brought that home, where I really believed that I was lovable. And this life coach was the first one that did that. I mean, our first session, I bawled my eyes up for 3 hours. Like, cried like I've never cried before.
This was after you got back Your wife knows something's up.
She didn't find out until like almost a year later. She found an email.
So it was eating you up for an entire year.
Yeah, pretend like everything was okay. I was a good actor
and
on
then
the outside.
She confronted you.
She found the email. She confronted me. It was devastating. Her dad had cheated on her mom. That was her worst fear. She even told me, like, that's my worst fear, is like if you cheat on me. So of course you can imagine, like, okay, of course I was like, oh, I'll never do that. But then I did it. I was like, what did I just do? Like, what? And so she was devastated. She was heartbroken. And I was disgusted with myself. I hated myself for so long. And I was like, well, your life's over. You know, once people find out, it's all done. You might as well just give up. You know, I didn't think about committing suicide or anything because I had kids. You know, I couldn't do that to them. But like, I just hated myself with the passion at that point because I put her through so much pain. And then this life coach, man, if you, and this is why I preach self-love so much, and it sounds so cheesy, especially as a guy, but it's so important.
It's so important.
Because hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
I was a hurt person. I was a hurt little boy who continued that hurt on. And until you heal your hurt, until you heal your pain, you're going to pass that hurt on. So it's up to us to break that cycle.
Yeah.
And until you heal your own pain, you're not going to break the cycle. You're going to pass it on to the next generation or the next relationship. And that's why people go from one failed relationship to another failed relationship until they fix that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that. And so for me, that's why I'm out there talking about this, because there's so many, not just men, but people out there struggling with the same thing of embracing vulnerability as a weakness and changing that and embracing it as a strength now.
Yeah.
I feel like we can change this world. That's how we can change the world, by changing us, our relationship with ourselves first.
Right.
And if we can change our relationship with ourselves and come from a place of self-love, all of our other relationships will change.
Yeah.
And man, it took me going through this, like hitting rock bottom to finally learn this. So for me, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for the affair. I'm grateful for what I learned. And my ex-wife is grateful. We've talked about this.
Yeah. Did she leave you right away after she found out?
She almost did.
Because that was right before, was that before 2011?
Right before Fit Tried to Fit. Yeah.
Okay, so she was with you through that journey. So now again, you said she didn't leave you because of the weight. So what happens? Because she stayed with you, and then you go into this. So
when she found out, it was, like I said, it was devastating. We met with our church leaders, and they kind of helped us. It helped her kind of, stay with me for a little bit. So she agreed to counseling. I was like, look, I'll do whatever it takes. I was like, I can change. I never want to do this again. I will do whatever. Because at that point, I was like, man, I don't want to be this person.
Yeah.
And I want to prove to her that I still loved her. So I went to addiction recovery, for porn, which was really good in the sense that it normalized it. For, like, there was other dads, other like normal dudes like me. These weren't like, I wasn't like this creepy person in the basement, like there was this pervert. It was like literally every single guy, everyday people. I'm like, man, okay, so I'm not the only one. So it normalized it for me to where I'm like, okay,
you're not alone.
Yeah, I'm not alone. And then from there, working with the life coach and not giving it power, not giving pornography this power over me that it had my entire life, was so freeing. That's really where it clicked for me. Is like, I've been looking at pornography as this evil, bad, sinful thing that's been so desirable, like the forbidden fruit. If I just change it and it's not neither good nor bad, it just is, I get to choose whether I partake in it or not. It doesn't have this power over me, where before, man, I could almost feel my brain shutting off and going into this mode of like this, like watching this one thing. Like when people do a drug, that like their brain lights up, right? Yeah. And their animal lizard brain clicks on, and they're a slave, Right. And for me, that's kind of what I went through. And it was eventually my perception of pornography has changed, and my perception of myself had changed going to the life coach. And she went to the life coach as well, and that's why we're still good friends today. Okay. Like, we co-parent really well. We just had Halloween together. If you follow me on social media, it was really cool. We'll have Christmas together, and she has a fiance, I have a girlfriend, and so it's like, this really cool thing that I'm grateful for now, to be honest with you.
So why did it fall apart?
Okay, that's a good question. So, there's no tissues in here, is there? Sorry.
Oh. No, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
There was some before. But.
It's fine. Once we both started to heal, like after seeing the life coach, I realized that I was, no matter how much I had changed, and I did get to a place where I did change, and I was a more self-aware, and I was coming from a place of self-love. I had realized that it still wasn't enough, because you could change all you want. The trust, I don't get to choose whether or not she trusts me. So, yeah, I had changed, but if I'm on a business trip, if I'm going to the gym for an hour, it doesn't matter, because I'd be like, here, look at my phone. Like, I'm not talking to anyone. Oh, wow. It's still in the back of her mind, so she's the one that ends up suffering. She wasn't in a place yet where she could let that part go. Yeah. And I realized that me holding on and trying to prove to her that I was perfect was literally killing her and killing me, because I was trying to go out of my way to, like, I'm not talking to that person. I was just, they were asking about, fit or whatever. It didn't matter, because the perception of who I was, like my word didn't mean anything at that point. So I realized that for both of our health, we had to let each other go, and that was so hard for us, because we were like, are we sure? Like, we went back and forth, and eventually we made the decision, and we ended things amicably. Because I know some people that have been through this, and they somehow worked it out, and I feel like some people can. Yeah. I feel like the tools that we had at the time weren't enough to keep us together, and but like I said, I wouldn't have it any other way now. I really wouldn't.
I love it though that you have stayed amicable, especially for your kids. Yeah. Your girls need that, right? Yeah. But it makes sense as well why it was even harder to lose the weight, because in a way you're living exactly what a lot of people live with, and that is that food is feeding that insecurity, the sadness, all of that, and here you are not only dealing with everybody in America who knew your story, you're having to prove to them, but you have a wife that now you've cheated on her, you've had this whole thing, so the food is tied in with all that. Yeah. So you're really living it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what a lot of people don't know, is because we weren't public about it till later on. Like, we had to go on Dr. Oz or Jay Leno and be like, yeah, we're this happy married couple. You guys are so fit. Relationship goals. And we'd go home and she'd cry herself to sleep. And
she'd be like, if they only knew.
Yeah. It's really hard. And I think that's why a lot of people that are in the public eye, it's really hard for them to talk about these kinds of their secrets or whatever. But I feel like once you can, if you're brave enough, if you are thinking about even doing it one day, read Brene Brown's work first.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Daring Greatly, Braving Strong, Rising Strong, Braving the Wilderness. That helped me so much get the courage to be like, here's my story. It wasn't like the day after, it was years later. Yeah. But I'm so grateful, because now, I have 2 daughters. And if I was still that hurt person trying to raise 2 daughters, I'd be passing on the same thing to them. And if I can come from a place of self-love and be the strong father for them, I want to raise strong daughters. And that's why I have this tattoo right here that says strong fathers, strong daughters. And that's why I'm grateful for all of this that I went through, because had I not gone through that and had that experience, I wouldn't be the dad that I am today.
That's beautiful.
And that's what my purpose is in this world now. It's changed from before being like, I want to be this amazing husband. Now, where I'm at, I can't change the past. I want to be this amazing father.
And now you also want to help people out there, so that, because dieting, food, all of that does affect people's lives and affect their relationship with their loved ones, because if you don't love yourself and you feel disgusting, you're going to pass that anguish and the hate that you're feeling on yourself to everyone else, so it's going to affect everyone. That's why it is important.
That's why this is all tied together, diet, exercise, mental and emotional health, spiritual health, and that's why my new book, Complete Keto, talks about this, to help people with a complete transformation, right? It's not just, hey, diet and exercise, like here's your meal plans, here's your macros. That's a small piece of people's transformation. Right. It really stems from these things that they haven't released yet. And it's up to us to dig deep, find out how we can overcome that. So be open to seeing a therapist or a life coach or talking to someone about it, reading books, listening to podcasts, this podcast, to eventually change our perception of our situation and learn how to let those things go, so that we're more aware of, okay, what are we putting in our bodies? Why am I doing that? And how can I change that? And then as you build that self-awareness, you realize that you're more in control of the story that's happening in front of you, And then you're more in control of, yes, the health and fitness and the weight, but you're also in control of your your finances and your spiritual health and your emotional health. And then, man, that's where the real lifestyle change happens, instead of like, okay, what's the new diet I'm going to do in January?
Yeah.
So thank you for letting me talk about all of this and tying it all in at the end.
I appreciate this because, Drew, man, you said it. It's not easy. Women, it's not easy, but especially men, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But the more open, the more vulnerable we are, and the more we open up about our lives, the better we can all stop feeling so alone.
Yeah.
And stop feeling like I'm the most horrible person in the world when everyone's dealing with stuff. Now, you've mentioned other books, and I definitely want to mention this one because this is from The Powerful You. Perception Seeing is Not Believing. This is amazing. Like, I even already knew their story with Steph and James working here, but there's something about the book that is hitting home in so many ways for me.
Yeah.
And then the movie, Perception Seeing is Not Believing, the fact that it won an award, it won the best movie, you know, with the film festival in LA. I can't applaud it enough. It's so good. And I remember that in the part of the movie, it does talk about dieting, and it does talk about why the man that has been given the diagnosis that he's got to lose weight or he's, you know, his heart is going to die, and then he doesn't, like, why? So I definitely want to give those, you know, to the people out here that are listening, tools.
Yeah.
You said it, tools. Your podcast is
Fit to Fat to Fit.
Right.
Yeah.
And so anything else you want to plug as well? I know you got your
so my second book is Complete Keto. If people want to try a keto approach, but it's
I love eating keto.
Yeah, me too. The food tastes good. It's a tool. It's not the only way to fix yourself. But what I tie into the book Complete Keto is the whole complete transformation part, the mental, the emotional hacks that I've used to help me overcome those emotional eating challenges that so many people face. And so, that's the only thing I'd say. Just follow me on social media, and there's a lot of stuff that I put out there that I think people will enjoy listening to. And that's why I love James and Steph and what they do. I was like, man, I want to be with you guys, because perception, that's everything. That's everything. If you can change your perception, you can change your story, you can change your life.
Yeah, because I don't want to end without asking this, because I had found out about your porn addiction when you were on stage speaking at Powerful You, and you mentioned, and I said I didn't want you to tell me yet until we were here, but we have to end it this way. You mentioned that you had talked about it on your podcast, but you had not talked about it in front of people. How the heck was that?
Man, this is so interesting. Because, like I said, a couple years before I spoke at Powerful You, I put my story out there to the public. I put it on a podcast. I posted about it on social media. And it was hard for sure. Being on stage was 100 times harder, because I could talk into a microphone, put it into the computer, and boom, it's magically out there.
Nobody's watching.
No one's watching me.
Yeah.
I remember I was rehearsing with my team up in the hotel room, my speech, and I'm just like, I was so nervous. I never get nervous speaking, because I usually don't speak about that. I usually speak about health and fitness and keto.
I saw you at Bedros.
That's right.
That's the first time I ever discovered you.
That's right.
That's
so funny.
I was in San Diego, and I saw you, and I heard the whole, Fit to Fat Fit, and I was like, whoa, this guy did what? Like, I was mesmerized. So okay.
So that stuff's easy for me to talk about.
Right.
This is the first time I had to talk about this in a live audience, and to make it worse, my time was like 20 or 30 minutes. So I had to like tell my story, get what I just told you across to this audience the way I would want it to, and fit all the details in, right? Because there's so much to fit in.
Right.
And I was so nervous. And so getting up on stage, I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to be totally honest, and people might hate me. It might trigger some people, because I've had, obviously it can trigger some people that have been through a similar experience. But I'm like, I'm just going to be me. And so I did my thing. I came off the stage. I think you or your husband were like the first person I talked to. They're like,
wow.
What? Did you really just say that? And I was like, I was unapologetic about it. And since then, so many people in the audience came up to me and said, thank you. I thought that you were just going to talk about fitness. And so anyways, I feel like that story resonates with a lot of people. So
that's why I wanted you to be my first guest at the top of 2020.
Thank you.
because I feel that it is about fitness. Everyone's talking about New Year's resolutions, all of that, but it goes way more than that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, this is the way, because you have been there, you've been through all of this.
Yeah.
And so you're the guy to help other people 2020. I really want to thank you for coming on board. And people find you on social media how?
Yeah, so just Fit to Fat to Fit. That's my website, it's my podcast, my first book, and then it's all my social media handles.
Perfect.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just Fit to Fat to Fit.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Lilian. Really appreciate it.
Chasing Glory with Lilian Garcia.
And there you have it, Drew Manning. Okay, did you guys hear his story? You guys heard his struggles as far as what he went through with his wife, as far as what he went through with the secret that he was hiding, with so many things that he endured. He could have used that as an excuse not to take care of himself, not to get fit, not to have the best life ever, but instead he turned that all around, and then his story of wanting to become his clients and see what they were going through, absolutely incredible. So Drew, thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for sharing what you have here on Chasing Glory, and I know that you have inspired so many people out there. Okay guys, remember that you can continue following the show. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you rate the show. Go on Apple Podcast and go ahead and write a review. Please write a review. That helps the show. And rate the show there too. But more than anything, go ahead and let your friends know about this. Tag some friends. Inspire other people. Whatever it is that helped you can help them, and then we can help each other, and the community gets better and better. And so we just spread positivity and inspiration and just get all our dreams here in 2020 and beyond. I love you guys dearly. Thank you for following the show at Chasing Glory on Instagram at Lilian Garcia. You can always find me there on Instagram and Twitter, and Lilian Garcia official fan page on Facebook. And of course, seeing the show as I'm standing here in Times Square, you can see it on youtube.com/Lilian Garcia. All right, guys, like I always said, and seriously, put this into practice into 2020. Go out there and live with much peace, love, and passion. And above all, remember to always be yourself and trust that it's enough. I love you. Mwah! Take care. Till next week.
Thanks for joining us here on Chasing Glory from executive producer Lilian Garcia. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends, and be sure to subscribe at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite shows.